Listen, I did not know what a boundary was until I was 27 years old, okay? I was raised by somebody who had no boundaries because of all of her life experience and lack of therapy. So I, in turn, also had no boundaries. Like, she just taught me how to be. She didn't respect my boundaries, so I didn't respect my boundaries. You know, it's that simple. It's like cooking, trauma. However, my late 20s started to come around and I realized that there was something missing. It felt like I needed to have like more of a membrane around me, like a protective layer of subtle skin to not only keep me from spilling out into the world, but also to keep the world from spilling into me. It's a very confusing thing to be a boundaryless person. You can't tell what's you can't tell what's them, you can't tell what's yours, you can't tell what belongs to the world. I remember when I was 27, I noticed somebody with good boundaries for the first time in my life. I was at a party and I cracked a classic self-deprecating joke about my shitty family situation. And after I made the joke, I asked her, I was like, well, what's your family like? And this woman I was talking to said something kind of along the lines of, yeah, I don't really want to go there tonight. Can we talk about something else? Like, I'd love to keep chatting with you, but that topic is just not really for me today. And my eyes widened because it wasn't mean or sharp. It was kind but firm. And I could feel this like quiet confidence coming from her, almost like she noticed within herself that she didn't want to talk about that right then, and then stated that she didn't want to. And I respected it. I felt like I had never seen someone respect themselves in that way. And the experience really stuck with me. Without even realizing it, I began to want to be more like her, but I didn't really have words for it. What I later learned was that she had good boundaries. She respected her energy enough to know when to do certain things and when not to. And she knew how to communicate how she was feeling calmly and compassionately. And as I have grown into this myself, I have learned that developing better boundaries has been a self-worth exploration for me. The more I can pump up my self-esteem, my self-concept, my self-awareness, I'm going to get to that, and self-worth, the easier it is for me to see what feels good for me and what doesn't. And not only that, enough confidence to state what I want or need because I'm not afraid of being rejected for saying what feels true for me. And of course, doing all of this calmly and with compassion and with a willingness to talk about it. However, the whole topic of boundaries can get really murky because I think a lot of us can start to get confused between what is a boundary and what is our limit. What's a boundary and what's a limit? Everything I've already described is perhaps in the realm of what we understand as a boundary, but as I've gotten older, I've realized that a lot of the subtle stuff, the little stuff, is more related to my self-awareness of where my limits are in certain situations. So perhaps that woman at the party felt that she was at her limit for the day of thinking about her family, period. She didn't need to have a boundary with me. She was just at her limit. That feels so much more relational to me. Relational, like we're in this together. Sometimes I see people getting so deep into their so-called boundaries that they unconsciously block themselves off from the world. Everyone. They're thinking, well, if my need isn't being met here, that means I need to have a boundary with this person. No, you don't. You just need to recognize that you're at your limit and find a way to talk about it in a productive way. Productively. Here's an example. Maybe you think, my boyfriend keeps having his friends over to play video games every night, really late into the night, and it's really fucking up my sleep schedule. So I need to have a boundary with him. Do you hear the way that sounds? Do you hear the way that sounds? You've turned your partner who you supposedly love into your adversary. Like you need to put up a wall in order to get your way in the relationship. That's not a relationship. Those are two enemies fighting for their land. Okay, so here's an alternative. My boyfriend keeps having his friends over to play video games late into the night, and I am noticing a negative impact on my sleep schedule. I'm at my limit for how many nights a week I can experience this, so I'm going to talk with him about the impact that I feel and see if we can find a solution. Girl, that's called being at your limit. And if you hear that, you go back and listen to it. It feels much more collaborative. Can you hear that? This is a much more relational way of being. And this isn't 100% true, but what I want to do is go through some basic guidelines for what the difference is between a boundary and a limit, okay? So this is what a boundary can be. I'm going to give you 3 examples. I'm just going to say them. Please do not contact me for any reason other than things that are specifically related to our relationship co-parenting, okay? If you contact me for any reason aside from that topic, I will not respond to you. Thank you. If you degrade my trans partner at Thanksgiving dinner, we will leave and stay out of contact with you for 2 weeks. And then if, God forbid, your dad does say something fucking stupid at the dinner table, you all get up and leave and hold up the conditions of the boundary, okay? Number 3, if you ever call me pissed drunk ever again, I will hang up the phone on you instantly, and I am not available to finish our conversation until you are sober, okay? So let's break this down. What's the basic format? If blank happens, blank will happen. If unwelcome behavior happens, consequence will happen. And then you actually have to do what you have said. That's the final step. You have to actually do it if the boundary is crossed. For me personally, I set a boundary with somebody when I'm prepared to risk the relationship in order to respect myself. Or, this is unfortunate, if I know that they're in a position mentally where they're not capable of doing conflict well with me. And so maybe they have a personality disorder, like my mother, she also has dementia. There's no conflict resolution there. And so it's a lost cause to conflict with people who are suffering with certain mental experiences. It's a very painful experience for them to live in, very painful. And I feel compassion, but I just want you to know that you don't need to sacrifice yourself to work with somebody who is incapable of working with you, ever. Don't degrade them, but just see what's going on. And usually you'll figure this out through the process of trying to fix things with them. And eventually you will realize that you never can. That is a great place to lay down a boundary, when you finally realize you're at your limit with this person who cannot solve things with you. So what's a limit? I'm going to say some things. I've noticed that when we're in the car together, you put on music immediately without asking if I'm open to listening to anything. So sometimes I really like sitting quietly in the car with you. Is there a way that we could find a solution for how to navigate this in the future? Because I just want both of us to be happy and feel like we're getting our needs met. Okay? 2. Hey, I love you so much, but sometimes when I come home from work, I just need an hour to be silent and alone and process everything I just experienced at my fucking hellscape job. It's not personal at all to you. I adore you. This is just how I work. I need that quiet. So how would it feel for you if we just got into the routine of letting me arrive home and settle down away in my room, and then we can watch TV together or cook dinner or go on a walk? I would love to find a way to make this work for both of us because you matter to me, okay? So the basic format with that, this one's a little bit more nuanced, but basically it's like something you're noticing you're at your limit about. And then, how can we find a solution that works for both of us? Don't forget to affirm how much the other person means to you when you're expressing your limit, by the way, okay? That's just good relationality. My theory is that people are stuck on needing to have boundaries all the time because they are unconsciously conflict avoidant. This is my theory. This is just my theory. You may initially perceive that behavior of being really overly boundaried as not being conflict avoidant because they're so intensely setting their boundary with you. but it could potentially be a subtle form of conflict avoidance, which is known as posturing, where somebody will puff themselves up to get their way, rather than slow down and engage in the relational process of coming up with a solution with the person that they're speaking to. That's just a different way. That's conflict. That's doing conflict well. And so conflict skills require a willingness to do whatever it takes to speak clearly, calmly, and vulnerably. Even if it takes a couple of hours to regulate yourself enough to do that, or you guys need to take a time out. Productive conflict can take a very long time. So just accept that. And if you struggle with any of the things that I just said, you might be conflict avoidant and you don't even know it. And I say all of this to make the point that some people who are over-boundaried may just need to improve their conflict skills so they can get better at stating their limits in a collaborative way. Collaboration. I feel it may be beneficial for people to notice the differences between these two responses, boundary, limit, because I personally feel that a boundary is a hard line. And we really need to ask ourselves if we need to have hard lines with everyone who makes us uncomfortable. Like, do you really need to have a hard line, or do you need to express or acknowledge within yourself that you're at your limit? If you have a hard line with everyone, you are further separating yourself from others and, dare I say, reality itself. This is not a yogic way of being. So use your discernment, judgment plus wisdom, that's what discernment is, to know when to do what. And see if it can help you to feel more confident and connected with the people that are in your life. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. And by the way, if you loved everything I was saying today, I'm teaching a 6-week course about conflict in May. It's January right now, but in 5 months, we're doing a 6-week course about conflict. And leading up to this, I'm really trying to invite more people in to do one-on-one work with me about conflict and relationality and how to be more relational, just as almost kind of like a way for me to really embed myself in this conflict process with people so I can serve you up like the best possible work when I teach the course. And in case you know nothing about me, my name's Hannah Williams. I'm a spiritual mentor and I'm a relationship coach. And I was trained in the method of relationship coaching that Jason Gaddis teaches. So I am a certified relationship coach. And so if any of that's exciting for you, DM me. I would love to talk and help you become more relational and work through maybe some conflict skills. So that's that. Thanks for listening, guys. And I hope some of this was helpful today.